From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. On the top story, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday led the distribution of assistance to farmers, fisherfolk, and families affected by severe Tropical Storm Christine in Camarines Sur province to jumpstart rehabilitation and recovery efforts for farmers, fisherfolk, and families affected by severe tropical storm or STS Christine in Camarines Sur province. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. led the distribution of presidential assistance amounting to 10,000 pesos each to select beneficiaries from 15 municipalities during a ceremony at the Fuerte Camsur Sports Complex in Camarines Sur. A total of 5,000 beneficiaries from the province of Camarines Sur are set to receive financial aid worth 50 million pesos from the Office of the President. On November 4th, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Counselor NDRIMC reported that STS Christine and Leon cost nearly 6 billion pesos in agricultural damages, affecting 111,411 farmers and fisherfolk across 92,892 hectares of crops. The Bicol region bore the brunt of the damage at 2.9 billion pesos, with Camarines Sur at 1.3 billion pesos. President Marcos Jr. declared November 4, 2024 a day of national mourning for the victims of Christine. Let us listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. during the event.
Narito po ako muli upang personal na maghatid ng mga karagdagang tulong para sa mga kababayan nating lubhang naapektuhan ng Bagyong Christine dito sa Camarines Sur. Umaasa ako na sa tulong at suportang iniabot namin sa inyo ngayon, kayo ay magkakaroon ng sapat na kakayahan upang makabangon muli. Naglaan po ng 50 milyong piso ang tanggapan ng Pangulo na ipapamahagi ng DSWD sa mga naapektuhan ng bagyo. Makakatanggap ng tig-10,000 piso ang 5,000 magsasaka, mangingisda at iba pang pamilyang naapektuhan. Talaga pong nagpupursige tayo na maibalik sa normal ang kondisyon sa lalong madaling panahon ang mga nasirang tahanan, infrastruktura at kabuhayan nitong bagyo. Mga kababayan, hindi po na iba sa atin ang madaanan ng bagyo. Ngunit itong nakaraang hagupit ng Bagyong Christine, talagang ang lawa ng pinsala. Tayo po ay nakakaranas ng talaga ng epekto ng tinatawag na climate change. Hindi lang po ang Pilipinas ang tinatamaan ng matinding pagbabago ng panahon nito, kung hindi sa buong daigdig ay nakikita natin ganito rin ang nangyayari. Kaya kailangan natin gumawa ng masusi at maagap na solusyon upang hindi na muling mangyari ang ganitong kalaking pinsala dala ng mga bagyo. Nagbigay ako ng direktiba sa bawat ahensya ng gobyerno na gumawa ng mga estratehiyang akma sa ating pagmamalawakang batinding pagbaha at maiwasan na ang ganyang klaseng baha sa kabila ng inaasahang pagbabago ng panahon. Inatasan ko ang DPWH na muling pag-aralan ang Bicol River Basin Development Program. Hulyo nitong taon ay nakumpleto na ng Department of Public Works and Highways ang updating, ang pagbabago ng Master Plan at Feasibility Study ng Bicol River Basin upang gawin itong akma sa mga hamon ng pagbabago ng klima natin. Sa kasalukuyan ay inaayos na ang detailed engineering design na inaasahang masisimulan sa first quarter na susunod na taon. Next year, pagsimula ng pagpasok ng New Year na 2025 ay masisimulaan na natin itong ating mga ginawang plano para hindi na ganito kalala ang pagbabaha sa Bicol River Basin. Inatasan ko ang DPWH, DNR at DILG na makipagtulungan kasama ang lokal na pamahalaan upang maging integrated at future-proof ang kanilang mga plano at proyekto para sa Bicol River Basin. Ngunit, ang mga proyektong ito ay mababaliwala kung hindi naman ito magtatagal, lalo na ngayon na ang kalaban natin ay ang matinding pagbabago ng panahon. Bakit ko sinasabi yun? Dahil sa buong kasaysayan ng Pilipinas, hindi pa tayo nabuhusan ng ganitong karami, ganitong kabigat na ulan. Dahil wala naman tayong climate change noon. Ngayon, nandito na po ang climate change. Kagaya ng aking sinasabi, kung maaari lang, papalitan natin ang panahon, papalitan natin yung weather. Ngunit hindi pa natin kayang gawin yun. Kaya paghahandaan na lang muna natin para matiyak na hindi naligtas ang mga taga-Kamsur at lahat ng ating mga kababayan na inaabutan at tinatamaan ng mga malalakas na bagyong ganito. Kaya sa DPWH, DOTR, DTI at iba pang ahensya, dapat masiguro natin na ang infrastruktura ay matitibay at pinag-aralan ng mabuti. Suriin ninyo ang mga materyales na gagamitin at mga proseso sa pagpapagawa ng mga ito. Para naman sa DBN, sisiguruhin na tuloy-tuloy ang pagtugon sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno sa pamamagitan ng Quick Response Fund. Lalo na, at may banta pa na panibagong bagyo sa puntong ito. Nais kong muling pasalamatan ang ating mga kasamahan sa ASEAN. Ang ASEAN na nagpadala po ng tulong kahit kagaya ng ibang lugar, tinamaan din sila ng bagyo, ngunit binigyan pa rin tayo ng tulong. Kaya't nagpadala sila ng eroplano, nagpadala sila ng gamit, pati na rin ang pribadong sektor na handang umagapay sa pagpapalawig ng mga proyekto ng pamahalaan. Mga kababayan, hangad ko na mas patibayin pa ang ating pagkakaisa at pagtutulungan para sa isang maliwanag na bagong Pilipinas.
You just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
In related news, the Philippine Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, or DHSUD, has distributed housing materials and essentials to victims of severe Tropical Storm Christine, international name Trami, in Batangas Province. In a Bagong Pilipinas Ngayon interview, DSUD Disaster Response Administrative and Finance Services Undersecretary Randy Escolango said donations from the private sector were used to purchase the housing materials from families in Talisay, Laurel, Agoncillo, and other nearby towns. To further help Christine victims with damaged houses, Escolango said that they should give cash assistance through the Integrated Disaster Shelter Assistance Program, or IDSAP. IDSAP allotted 30,000 pesos for families with totally damaged houses and 10,000 pesos for those with partially damaged houses. Under the issuances, developers must assign 15% of the subdivision and 5% of the condominium to socialized housing. Escolango explained that such allotment for socialized housing may come in the form of incentivized compliance, where developers distribute housing materials, repair or reconstruction damaged housing units, develop plans, or perform other modes of emergency and quick response. Earlier, they issued key shelter agencies National Housing Authority, Pag-ibig Fund, Social Housing Finance Corporation, and National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation were ordered to implement one-month moratoriums on loan payments for beneficiaries affected by Christine.
Dateline Malacañang.
Damage to palay production due to severe tropical storm Christine International named Trami was lowered by over a half after validation of the Department of Agriculture Disaster Risk Reduction and Management or DRRM Operations Center. From 516,438 metric tons or MT volume of palay production losses logged over the weekend, it dropped to 239,302 metric tons. The value of production losses in rice, however, was higher at 4.46 billion pesos from the previous reported amount of 4.25 billion pesos. This came as a DADRRM reported a wider area of land affected equivalent to 107,820 hectares, with 38,398 hectares totally damaged and 69,422 hectares partially damaged or still having a chance of recovery. The DA earlier said this year's palay production loss breached the annual average loss ranging from 500,000 MT to 600,000 MT due to the combined effects of the El Niño phenomenon, various weather disturbances, and La Niña. The DADRRM has yet to release its official tallied volume losses in palay production since January. Despite this, the DA assured sufficient rice supply in the country with more imports coming in under the lower tariffs. As of October 30, the total rice import arrivals are already at 3.79 million MT, higher than the total 3.6 million MT annual rice import in 2023. The DA further assured that it is continuously monitoring prices and road networks for any changes in prices and movement of agricultural commodities.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, updates on Typhoon Marce preparation. Philippine Department of National Defense DND Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. on Tuesday said the conduct of forced evacuations in areas in the path of Typhoon Marce is up to the discretion of local officials. In a press briefing in Camp Aguinaldo, Quezon City on government preparations for the country's 13th tropical cyclone for this year, Teodoro said it would be hard to say what areas should do forced evacuations as this could result in false information and panic. For areas or localities that do not practice forced evacuations, Teodoro said the DND through the Regional Office of Civil Defense or OCD officials has asked local officials to compare information in making their best prediction on the situation. Teodoro said the OCD's social media pages are constantly providing updates and they are coordinating with the Presidential Communications Office or PCO in the dissemination of timely and relevant updates of the typhoon. He also directed municipal disaster risk reduction and management officers to cascade disasters warning in villages.
Ngayon po, inaanyayahan ko din ang ating mga kababayan na maging matanong sa ating mga barangay officials or maging proactive sa pagtatanong sa ating barangay officials kung ano ang dapat nilang asahan, kung saan sa barangay sila lilikas or saan sila pupunta upang makakuha ng serbisyo. Ang mga barangay chairpersons naman, puntahan na natin at kontakin na natin ang ating Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction Officers para nakaayos na po ang sistema. Sa MDRRMO, sa lalawigan naman, ang lalawigan po at mga syudad, Regional Director Communications po ay importante upang sa ganon, maagap namin malaman ang maagang mga sitwasyon upang makapredict kami kung anong kailangan pang gawin at matugunan namin ang kinakailangan ng mga lugar. So, yun lang po at antabayanan lang po ang ating mga social media sites at patuloy na impormasyon na i-release po namin sa ating mga kababayan. Nandyan din po ang ating mga regional media networks, city and municipal, kung saan ikakascade po natin itong impormasyon na ito para maagang pong babala, maagang paghahanda at maagang pagkalinga sa ating mga kababayan sa ilalim ng bagong Pilipinas ng ating Pangulo.
Department of National Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, on Tuesday said it has prepositioned search, rescue, and retrieval, or SRR teams in anticipation of the effects of Typhoon Marce. In a press briefing in Camp Aguinaldo, Quezon City, AFP Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr. said the AFP have prepared and prepositioned 305 SRR teams in the northern Luzon area. Aside from these personnel, Bronner said the AFP is now readying its airlift capabilities, such as C-103 transport aircraft that can be tapped to transport essential relief goods and non-food items. Besides these fixed-wing assets, the AFP chief said 7 Black Hawk helicopters are ready to transport food and other relief items to isolated communities that cannot be accessed by other transport assets. Bronner, meanwhile, said relief operations continue in areas in the Bicol region that are still reeling from the impact of severe tropical storm Christine. He added that 2 Philippine Navy ships carrying food items and non-food items have already reached the region as part of the relief efforts to communities affected by the storm. The AFP chief also assured continuous internal security operations against local threat groups. He cited as an example the October 27 clash where troops conducting rescue and relief works figured in an encounter with New People's Army insurgents in Payo, Duran, Albay, which wounded a soldier.
Sa panig po ng Armed Forces of the Philippines, kami po ay naghanda at nag-preposition ng ating mga search, rescue, and retrieval teams. Ngayon po, sa area ng Northern Luzon, meron po tayo mga 305 na SRR teams na nakadeploy. Ready na po silang tumulong sa ating mga kababayan pagka dumating po itong bagyong Marce. At meron po tayong nakahanda rin na mga airlift capabilities. Meron tayong mga C-130s na available na magdala po ng mga relief goods and non-food items. Meron rin po tayong 7 Black Hawk helicopters na nakahanda na tumulong po sa ating mga kababayan para dalhin yung mga food items sa mga areas na mahirap marating ng mga ibang transportation platforms. Sa ngayon po ay naglo-load na po tayo ng food and non-food items dito po sa Subic. Doon po sa 2 barko natin na malalaki ng Philippine Navy. At once makumpleto po yung pag-load natin ng food and non-food items, kasama po dito yung mga construction materials, dadalhin na po natin ito sa Basco, Batanes. Sa ngayon po ay tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung ating operations dun sa Bicol region. Meron na rin pong 2 barko ng Philippine Navy na nakarating na po dun sa Bicol region na may dalang mga food items and non-food items para sa mga kababayan natin na naapektuhan ng bagyong Christine. So, marami pa hong ginagawang mga paghanda ang Armed Forces of the Philippines. Yung pong mga rubber boats natin, nag-deploy na rin po tayo ng mahigit 30 na mga rubber boats sa area ng Northern Luzon. So, kami po ay handang-handa na tumulong sa ating mga kababayan. Habang gumagawa po tayo ng humanitarian assistance and disaster response operations, tuloy pa rin ho yung ating internal security operations, yung mga combat operations ho natin. Katunayan po nito, nung nagre-rescue operation tayo sa Bicol region, nagkaroon pa tayo ng isang encounter sa Albay, kung saan po yung isang sundalo natin ay nasugatan. So, bagamat ginagawa natin na tumulong sa ating mga kababayan, ay tuloy pa rin po yung ating security operations.
Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, has been non-stop in producing family food packs, or FFPs, to replenish those being distributed in the ongoing disaster operations for severe tropical storm Christine and super typhoon Leon, and in anticipation of the impact of severe tropical storm Marce. Earlier, National Resource and Logistics Management Bureau and our LMB Chief Administrative Officer Irish Flor Yaranon said the DSWD targets to produce 20,000 boxes of FFPs per day. DSWD spokesperson Irene Dumlao said the agency has been continuously strengthening the agency's repacking efforts in response to the report of the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA, that Marce may reach super typhoon category as it approaches northeastern Luzon. For the ongoing Christine relief operations and for the possible impact of Marce, 18,700 FFPs from the Visayas Disaster Resource Center, or VDRC, in Mandaue City, Cebu, were loaded into trucks on Monday evening bound for the Bicol region. The agency is also continuously utilizing the logistic assistance of the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, in delivering relief aid through sea travel. Dumlao said beneficiaries of the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, tulong panghanap buhay sa ating disadvantaged displaced workers, or TUPAD, are actively helping out with the production of relief supplies at the National Resource Operations Center, or NROC, in Pasay City.
Dateline Malacañang.
Environment Secretary Maria Antonio Yulo Loizaga called on local government units, or LGUs, to use the geohazard map of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Mines and Geosciences Bureau, or DENR-MGB, to minimize casualties during severe weather conditions. During a briefing at the Office of Civil Defense, or OCD, in Kamkrame, Loizaga cited the importance of using the list of areas prone to flooding and landslides during the preemptive and forced evacuation. Loizaga said a list of flood and landslide-prone areas in the MGB's geohazard map is regularly updated based on recent data from the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA. She said the list includes villages likely to experience landslides and deep floods. Loizaga said the DENR has already submitted the data to the OCD for distribution to LGUs. Loizaga said typical landslide-prone areas are those near mountainous slopes, while those localities near coastal areas, rivers, and low-lying areas have a high possibility for flooding. She noted that as Marce approaches the country, they are monitoring major rivers along the typhoon path, including the Cagayan River Basin and the rivers in Abra, Lawag, and Vintar in Ilocos Norte and the Cordillera region. She said the DENR is also monitoring areas prone to landslides in the Ilocos and Cagayan Valley regions, as well as several areas in Mindanao, warning residents against possible storm surges. She said the DENR has also increased collaboration with dam operators and the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, to better manage water levels in critical dams, including the Magat and San Roque dams, in preparation for heavy rains. She added that the National Irrigation Administration and the National Power Corporation coordinate with the DENR for the controlled release of water from dams to prevent downstream flooding. Loizaga reiterated that as the DENR continues to refine its disaster response strategies, the agency is committed to working closely with local authorities and other concerned agencies to ensure effective information dissemination and preemptive evacuation plans, particularly in areas prone to flooding and landslides.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA board approved the extension of the construction period and other adjustments to the Cavite Industrial Air Flood Risk Management Project, CIA-FRIMP, and the Pasig Marikina River Channel Improvement Project or PMRCIP Phase 4. According to a statement from the Presidential Communications Office or PCO, the NEDA board chaired by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. gave its approval during its 22nd meeting at the Malacañang Palace in Manila. The PCO said approved changes in the CIA FRIMP include the increase in the total project cost to 22.37 billion pesos, higher by 122.79% or 12.146 billion pesos from 9.891 billion pesos. The NEDA board also approved the 65-month extension of the project's implementation period starting from April 2025 until September 2029, the PCO said, adding, it has been adjusted from the original October 2019 to April 2024. The PCO said the NEDA board also gave its nod to the change in the scope of work, particularly the widening of diversion channels and additional drainage channels. As of September 30, 2024, the CIA FRIMP has an overall physical accomplishment of 44.21% with negative slippage of 55.79%. It has a fund utilization rate of 35.42% or 3.503 billion pesos already disbursed. The project aims to mitigate flood damage in the lower Richa San Juan River Basin and its adjacent Maalimango Creek drainage area in Cavite Province. The NEDA board also approved a 74.32% increase or 24.599 billion pesos in total project cost from 33.97 billion pesos to 57.696 billion pesos for the PMR CIP Phase 4. The PCO said there will be a 63-month extension for the implementation of the PMRCIP Phase 4 from December 2025 to March 2031. The PMRCIP aims to mitigate flood damage in Metro Manila caused by channel overflow of the Pasig Marikina River. The project is seen to benefit residents of the cities of Pasig, Marikina, and Quezon in Metro Manila and the municipalities of Taytay and Cainta in Rizal. Department of Public Works and Highways or DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan said that the design of the project helped in stopping spillover during the recent typhoons. Apart from the changes in the two flood control projects, the NEDA board also approved the implementation of the locally financed Philippine International Exhibition Center project and the acquisition of 40 units of fast patrol crafts to be funded through Official Development Assistance or ODA.
Dateline Malacañang. Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang on Tuesday confirmed that Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission or PAOC spokesperson Winston Casio has been relieved from his post and is under administrative investigation following his supposed mistreatment of a Filipino national during a raid on a Philippine offshore gaming operator or POGO hub in Bagak, Bataan Province. In a text message to Palace reporters on Tuesday, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin said Casio was ordered to explain actuations in writing. A footage of Casio slapping a POGO worker during the October 31st raid circulated on social media, prompting the PAOC to issue on Monday a memorandum mandating him to submit a written explanation within 24 hours. The memorandum also informed Casio that he is relieved of his responsibilities as spokesperson for PAOC effective immediately and until the completion of the investigation. In a statement, Casio apologized to Bersamin, who chairs the commission and executive director under Secretary Gilbert Cruz, as well as to his colleagues on the PAOC. The official acknowledged that he should have simply filed the necessary charges against the person who flashed a dirty finger at them and insulted their office with vitriol. He then called on the public not to associate his actions to the entire PAOC workforce.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Bea Gaza de Guzman.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.